Hi, guys. Okay, so I looked up the date prior to recording this and went, okay, it's been over 3 years since I did a Dragon's Den podcast. This did exist, but then I gave up on it because I was doing other things. It's back, which is cool, and I'm very happy about. But we're going to just jump straight into it because I want this to be a freeform thing. This is going to be a really just like anything goes, just chat kind of situation. I do have 3 amazing guests with me. I use the term amazing very loosely, but let's cross over and see these wonderful people and I'll introduce them, even though I don't think they really need an introduction. So, ta-da! You guys can talk, by the way, now. Like, the awkward silence. I'm like,
Good day, everyone.
Just saw the picture.
All right, before we get started, it looks so bad. It looks so bizarre.
It's amazing.
All right, so I'm gonna do a bit of an intro for these wonderful people, and then we'll get yakety yak, and all that stuff. So yeah, all right, we're gonna start with the wonderful person in the bottom right corner. My Phasmo locker buddy, the farm floozy.
All accurate so far.
I was gonna say I could keep going, but the list is long. But yeah, we have Cory.
I'm CoryTheSmurf.
Yeah. And then, of course, on the bottom, I'm leaving the best till last. I
feel headed.
The image alone is worth leaving the last. And then, of course, we have the wonderfully talented platforming playing Spike enthusiast. Cosplayer who doesn't make the list of cosplays that they come up with.
What happened?
My Friday streaming partner, NerdsofAus, Larissa.
Hello.
And where does one begin?
The reason we're going deaf.
The android they sent back to CyberLife because their profanity filter is permanently broken. So Aussie it hurts everyone else. The always loud but wonderful Kaylee, QueerNoob.
Hello.
You can talk now. Are we gonna get
Android sent by CyberLife?
I was going to say we're going to get some Kaylee ASMR. Sorry, podcast cancelled now. It's just not happening.
That's what made you rethink this? That's really...
No, it wasn't the... I had this... talking about when I was getting set the cams up and everything, you're like, can I just have an image up? And like, yeah, cool, that's fine. And then
that was your mistake.
I was like... I had this image of you going like, okay, I'm going to send a Connor image. And then you sent the Connor images, right? And they just kept coming. And I have this picture of you like standing in a room with, you have those investigation boards with like the strings, but it's just all Connors. And you're just like picking one. Like, this one. Yes, this one.
I have so many stupid images of Connor on my computer. It's not funny.
Yeah, but I'm not surprised by this. I'm not surprised by this. I mean, you did spend the bulk of... Which year did that come? That's been out a
Yeah,
while.
My God.
It's like 4
years
years
ago.
old at this point.
But you spent like the whole year streaming that. It was like
Yeah, I did.
Yes.
It took me 8 months to 100% that game on stream.
And it was
and
like
not just 100% to for the trophy to actually 100%.
Oh yeah, no, I unlocked every choice and it took
everything.
a long
yeah, because
time.
it's one of those games that are like there's 100% to get a platinum trophy, and then it's like, but we have all this extra
and
shit
then
you have to
me.
do. Stuff that you don't have to do for the platinum, but if you want 100% the game.
Because it was a different multiple choices.
The game, I'm a completionist, and the game presented me with a challenge, and I said, challenge fucking accepted.
I was so, but it got to the point where I was so like lost with like every time I tune into a Detroit stream, I was like, oh, what run are you doing now? I'm doing the super mega camp ski super hot mega run thing. I'm like, what the fuck are you on
I lost
about?
count. I have no idea how many
was like-
playthroughs I've done. I've lost count.
On
Yeah.
stream?
It's
Had
over
to be.
30 easily.
Yeah.
On stream,
Oh,
it was
yeah.
some ridiculous amount, let alone the stuff that you didn't do on stream. I was like, oh god.
Well, it took me 150 hours total playtime to 100% it on
No,
PS4.
unlock everything. I think there was still a
Mhm.
couple things like I think
For a
there's
story-based game that's 12 hours long.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I'm impressed at
No idea
how
how
much
many
you
times
got
I've
out of
replayed
that. Like,
wasn't there like a really rare Connor line that you tried to get? What was it?
Bingo.
Bingo.
Or,
Bingo.
yeah.
Bingo.
Yeah.
Oh, don't even. I have PTSD from Bingo.
the bingo
My
run.
God. An entire,
Bingo.
literally an entire run where I got like maybe 5 additional choices I hadn't unlocked just to make Connor say bingo.
Yeah.
Ugh.
It was a very rare line.
They,
It was
they,
just-
they call that the retirement village run. You know, he's going to
It's
bingo.
such a stupidly difficult line to get for no reason. Like,
just
It's
well, Connor was
bizarre.
saying
you
bingo.
had to just have this very specific set of circumstances in that chapter to make him say this line, and I'm like, why?
But lots of those
Why does this
story-based,
exist?
lots of those story-based games are like that, though.
Mm.
It's
It's not
like
even a trophy.
you just got to like do the most
No.
obscure shit to get them to like, you know. I remember when you were editing the that video with all the cuts and everything in it. What's it called? What do you, there's a special word for those kind of videos. What do you call them?
It was a
would-
montage.
Oh, the crack video.
That's it.
That's
Yes,
it.
Correct video
Yeah.
that you did.
I remember you
My
editing
God.
that.
That's hilarious.
My proudest piece of work, to be honest. It's
Yes,
it's
you should
incredible.
go watch
I
it.
remember
It's
like
amazing.
editing
that
stream
video.
after editing
I do
stream after
too.
editing stream of you trying to get this thing edited, and I just looked at it and went, I
Oh,
would have
it
tore
took
my.
like 22 hours to edit or something stupid
Yeah.
like that.
I'm like, I would have tore my hair out at that point. Like,
I think
Fully
you were
worth
going to
it.
do a
It's-
second
it's-
part of it as well, but it
I
didn't
was
happen.
going to, but like, no.
and then
Yeah.
trauma. So, but all right. Well, we were talking about video games, so I'm gonna segue into a question that I was gonna ask because I've been thinking about this recently myself because I've seen other people ask this question, and it's like it's so interesting to see what people say. So we all play loads of video games, and we've been gamers our entire lives, kind of situation. If you had to pick a game that you could start again without any knowledge, you completely forget that you've played it and you get to do a fresh playthrough of it, what would that game be for you? You can pick more than one, obviously, but like...
I'm going to pick more than one.
I was going to say, I'll be honest, I can't narrow it down to one either, but there are some
No,
really
I was
high...
thinking
like,
about it too.
but like,
Mm.
yeah, I'm guessing for Kaylee, it's probably Detroit as one of them.
I'm not going to go first. I'm going to let somebody else go first.
All right, well, go on, Lissa.
I'll,
Or if you want to go, Cory, I don't care, whoever.
I'll go first. I mean, I'd love to do Persona 5 again for the first time because I loved. It's such a long game. It's such a long game.
That's
like,
painful to think that you'd want to play
it's-
all that again.
well, this thing too is like at this point I've played through the entirety of that game 3 times. Like I did my
Yes.
first playthrough and then I platinumed it and then I did Persona 5 Royal, which
I still
was the
haven't done
game
that one.
again.
It's
so,
the same
like,
thing plus.
Yeah.
Plus.
Like I've put like 600 hours into that game and I'm just like, but I love it and I just love to experience that again. But I mean,
what is it
Kingdom
about?
Hearts.
I was gonna say. See, you guys like games that are just. I can't. Kingdom Hearts. I would tear my hair out playing.
Yeah.
Same. I'm a Tyson
mean,
on this.
I mean, I don't know. It just Kingdom Hearts was like one of the first games I ever like properly played when I was younger. So it's like I would love to just have that experience again. Like I don't know, it just especially because it was like the video game that got me into video games really. So
Yeah.
I just would love to recapture that magic.
Yeah, but it does make you wonder if you went back and played a game like this, like, would you have the same experience? You know what I mean? Like, which is also my
Yeah,
concern with picking these kind of things. Is like, would I enjoy it like I did the first time I played it, or is it just purely nostalgia that's like?
Well, one of mine is a bit like that. Is that I would like to play through Dark Souls 1 again afresh. Now that I know torture, but now that like I've played Hollow Knight and Ori and those other games that were platforming and with the difficult bosses, to see how it would fare this time through Dark Souls 1. With those extra skills and have
it's
it afresh.
amazing to think. I actually didn't even think you would pick Dark Souls. I honestly didn't.
I know.
That shocks me a little because I remember watching your streams of that, and like because that was one of the first things I watched of you playing was Dark Souls, and I just remember those streams, and I remember Kitten being in them going, Larissa, Larissa, you're doing, try this, Larissa.
What did you learn?
I was gonna say, what did you learn? You pulled that card on me while I was playing Tunic. What did you learn to us? And I'm like, get out of here, you. Get out of here.
But the first step with the boss, so what did you learn? Like, it hits hard and it killed me.
It mean.
It mean.
It's mean.
I have
a childhood game I would like to replay again will be Safari 2, because that was one of my favourite games as a kid.
That's
as well
a good
as
one.
Crash.
Crash is a great game. Like, Crash is a game that holds up even now. Like, especially the original Crash. Like, they're good games.
I played Crash Team Racing with my dad as a kid. We actually did a stream together playing the remake of Crash Team Racing on stream, and that was a lot of fun. That was good, but yeah.
So, I've got two. And surprisingly, neither of them are Pokemon, because my fear with Pokemon is that I don't know if playing them back again, it would be like, do I have that level of enjoyment? You know what I mean? Because, like, I played Pokemon from, like, Gen 1, so it's like, those games are... they kind of hold up, but they don't. Because they're very mechanically different.
I did think of Sapphire, because that was the one I played through as a kid. And the one I liked first when I actually properly finished and remembered the most. But
yeah, but for me it would be Ocarina of Time.
Yep.
Because playing back through that now is not enjoyable, but the first time I played it through, it was an incredible experience, and it's sort of what struck my love of the Zelda franchise. And then more recently, I would 100% like to be able to play Village without any...
Yeah.
I just adore that game, and it was such an amazing experience that sitting back now, like, I would absolutely like to go into that blind again and not have any idea what's going on, because that first playthrough was just like, oh, I'd still want to know what 7 is, because I feel like if you play those two together, it makes more sense, and that's not shade at Kaylee.
I didn't say anything.
No, but it's like, it's as someone who played 7 and then played 8, it was a really cool, like, cohesive, even though it just doesn't feel like it until the final pieces of 8 come together and you're like, holy shit. Like, that startling revelation at the end is like, it brings together this whole journey, and that's what I liked about Village, was like, oh, you know, this seems so different to 7, but then all of a sudden it's like, oh. So, you know, but they'd be the kind of games that I'd want to revisit, or, you know, start from not having any prior memory of it. But all right, give us your list, Kaylee.
So I have 5.
Oh God,
5.
I'll go through them quickly, because I don't want to steal the whole thing. Detroit, obviously.
Yeah.
But these are like the 5 games that were the only games I ever played that truly like blew my socks off. And I'm actually, there's a 6th one that I'm leaving out because we just played it, and that's It Takes Two. I would love to play that for the first time again, because it genuinely blew my socks off, and is one of my favorite games.
It was magical.
It was magical.
You should play that.
Yeah, I'm thinking about it, but then I'm also like, I played Overcooked with Danny, and I wanted to kill him, so...
I would love to watch you both play that.
So Detroit, obviously, because it had a very deep impact on me as a gamer and a streamer and a person, and was my like launch game into streaming. So like, that's kind of what everybody knew me for. So that one definitely. The Last of Us one.
Yeah.
was another game that, like, that's probably the game that had the most profound impact on me personally, and remains to be my favorite game of all time.
It's still one of the best games ever made. Like, even if you haven't,
Yeah.
even if you haven't
100%.
played it, like, even just as an experience watching someone else play it, it's still one of the it's still
Yeah.
one of the best games ever made.
I've watched Kaylee play it and also Chris play it.
Yeah. Last of Us Part 2, because again, took everything that was great about the first game and improved on it. And I feel like I didn't give that a fair chance the first time around, and I would like to play that again.
You had a very, very visceral reaction about
I
halfway
had
through
a
that
roller
game.
coaster of
You
a
did.
time with that game, honestly, but I ended up loving it by the end, and I wish I'd given
Chris
it a bit
didn't
more of a
finish
fair
it.
chance.
Yeah, after that bit in the
After
game.
After the halfway point, he
Yeah.
just couldn't go on.
No, he
Nah,
stopped. He
couldn't-
didn't
he didn't.
finish it.
I
I tried
don't
to
think
convince
he-
him,
yeah.
but he didn't.
No.
It's
Yeah,
that
what were the
shock.
other two?
I think
Oh.
there's that shock factor there, like, you know.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
also just
Halo 2. Which is going back a fair ways. I think that came out in 2002 originally, 2003.
Something like that,
Something
yeah.
like
Yeah.
But I remember playing that as a kid on the Xbox way back in the day, and it blew my mind. It was the coolest game I had ever played at that point, and I was like, and I still love it. Like, me and Cory replayed the anniversary edition recently, and I was like, fuck, I love this game. Like, it's so cool. It's such a good game even now, and like, I just remember the hype surrounding it when I played it the first time, and like, there was nothing like it out at the time.
Yeah.
And it just sort of like took everything that an FPS was supposed to be and went, nah, we're not doing that.
It was very groundbreaking though. Like that.
It was
That-
hugely groundbreaking at the time.
And to this day, I stand by this fact that Bungie still, to this day, are the premier studio for making first-person shooters.
Absolutely.
As much as, you know, people bag Destiny and that, the gameplay, the core mechanic gameplay of, you know, firing the gun in the game and that is so... It's perfect, and that's very rare for me to say that about a game, but that side of it is very perfect in that it gives you that, you know, early Halo experience, because it's just their style, but not many other studios have been able to replicate that.
Yeah. Special mention to Halo 3, because that was the first Halo on the 360 and was way ahead of its time when it was released. But the last one is The Walking Dead.
Oh,
I first played The Walking Dead. How long ago would it have been now, Cory? 7 years ago?
Yeah, it was like was it before we met, or was it right around? It was right around that time though.
Don't know. When was this released? Oh, I played it in 2018, October 2018. So not as long ago as I thought. Oh, that's because I replayed it when I streamed
it.
Yeah, I was going to say that definitely wasn't your
joined you for a
first
little bit of
playthrough.
it.
So the original time was a few years before that. So, but it again, very profound impact. And my computer that I played it on back then was garbage, so I wish I could play it again for the first time on a decent computer. But just the experience of playing that game, there's nothing like it. It's like for me, this is like, these are the 5 games you have to experience if you love RPGs, and it's
But it's also that the thing with Halo especially, and I think that's a sign of any good game, is it's the ability to, the moment you hear a piece of music, you can immediately go, oh my god, that whole scene. Like, there's that music that I hear, as soon as I hear it, I think of that final scene when you're driving the Warthog through the, like, everything is, like, burning and crashing and, like...
oh my god.
And it's just so, like... memorable, like it's ingrained in my brain, because the music and what was happening, the action, and it was so fluid and smooth and how it was played out, and it was just this epic moment in a game where you're like, this is like one of the greatest moments in any video game, whether you've played it yourself or witnessed it. It's just so, it's like the ultimate ending for that game. And like, so you hear that, you hear music, and especially like Halo is a really good example of that, you know, and even more recent games like Persona. I've not played Persona, but you can hear a piece of Persona music and go, that's Persona. Like, you just immediately go, that's Persona.
You hear it, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It has that distinct sound about it, and Halo definitely had that. And like, Cory and I have played Halo together before, but his first Halo game was Halo 4, and then we
Halo
played
Reach.
Reach.
I played Reach
was
first,
was
yeah.
it? Okay. And
Reach is really good.
So
I
he
like
hadn't
Reach.
played 1 or 2, and he has yet to play 3. We're doing that next. But for me, I hadn't played Halos 1 and 2 in such a long time, probably a decade. And then to go back and play those with him and get to experience my nostalgia with it, but also see him experience them for the first time was really cool, because they are so nostalgic for me, but also they're just like iconic games, and like they have such a distinctly Halo feel about them.
It's
like nothing else that you play feels like Halo.
Another moment that always with Halo is when you first encounter the Flood. That very first time.
You should have had Cory screaming.
I screamed like
because it's so well done and it's so horrific.
I did not pre-warn him about the Flood.
Because
I told him absolutely nothing. I was like, I'm going to shove you into these games blind because I want you to experience them the way I did.
The Flood is one of those things where you're like, it just comes out of nowhere and it's like, oh my god. Like, yeah.
It's like you're playing an FPS and suddenly this is a fucking zombie horror. What the shit is going on?
Yeah, it flips itself
all of a sudden,
big time.
The Flood comes in and it completely changes the whole, like, it changes everything about it. You should have heard the screaming.
They did something funny enough, because Bungie obviously makes Destiny. They did the same thing in one of the expansions, The Taken King. The first mission legitimately feels like they went from playing a first-person shooter to a horror game. Because you go into this, like, a ship, and it's on Phobos, which is like, is that Mars moon from memory? Or one of the moons of one of the planets. And then... and you go in, and the characters that you've been or the enemies you've been dealing with the entire time you've been playing Destiny are all like suffering or possessed or by this unknown entity. At the time, we didn't know what it was. Now it's the Taken, which is big part of the series now. But like, and it was just the music and the atmosphere and the creep factor. Like, I may not want to play through the entire of Destiny 1 and 2 ever again, but there's those moments where I'd be like, because they're long run, like Final Fantasy, it just keeps going and adding and adding and adding. I would never want to play the entire game again, but there are moments I'd want to play again, and that has to be one of them, because it was just this big shift, this big, like, unexpected shift, but it was done so well. And I love that.
I was going to say, I was surprised that none of us brought up Final Fantasy 14 as a thing, but I think it is because it's one of those things where it is so long and so continuous that, like, we wouldn't want to play through the whole thing again blind, but there are definitely also, like, moments.
The fact that the Oceania data center is available now, which is the Australian one for people who don't play the game, and we've all started alts on that new server, and we are playing back through A Realm Reborn, and it has been so long that we're going, oh, I forgot about this, and it does kind of feel really like it's fresh, like we've forgotten so much about it that it's like, because it's been 3 fucking years since we played it all. But like,
we can appreciate it more
it's
now,
almost like it's
what we know.
It's almost like it's all new, and now having the added context of everything we know now on top of that is going, oh, you know, making all these connections. I feel like it's almost cooler than it would be to play it for the first time again.
Yeah. I mean,
one of the things, go on.
Go on.
So I was just going to say, it's not a spoiler, but you get to know a character later on. Oh, God, I've forgotten his name. Ardbert? Yeah. No. Yes. And... and what happens with him and everything, but he was there at the start. He was when you meet the Scions and everything, he's there with 2 of his friends, which he talks about later on in the story, like, oh, he's there with his friends. And then we do a story bit, come back, and one of the friends is gone. I was like, oh, that's what happened to one of them as such. And it was just looking around at these people we recognized later on that we didn't even realize were there from the beginning, which is, I think, really great with the Final Fantasy 14 for that fact. Like, they're taking account these later events by having these characters been there from the beginning, even if you weren't involved with them at all. Like you don't even really get to talk to them; they're just there in the background.
Yeah.
We didn't know that the first time around with the game, but then
No, we
going
didn't.
back after having finished Endwalker, or almost finished Endwalker, at that time, to go back to the very beginning and then go through and be like, holy shit, this was here from the beginning, and we just had no context for it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
it's
no
like,
idea.
Yeah.
it's so cool to replay a
Yeah.
game like that that's been so long that we've like it's kind of out of our brains at this point. And then
So-
to go back and re-experience it again with a new character as well. It's really cool.
I can remember when I can't remember which expansion of Destiny it was. I think it was Shadowkeep. Pedal and I went back to like the Xbox because you couldn't play Destiny 1 on anything other than Xbox and PlayStation. And we went back and there's a character that was introduced in like vanilla Destiny 1 called the Exo Stranger, and one of the most mysterious characters. And then she disappeared at the end of the vanilla story, and we don't find anything out about her until like a year ago. Like Destiny's been going for like 8 years now. A year ago, and now, but she's like so intrinsically linked to everything that's gone on, and this startling revelation going, oh my god, she's this person that has been spoken about so many times. And it was like that moment of going back and playing it, going, we know who you are, and everything you're doing here, I understand now better than I did when I played through the first time. It's like, this is so just mind-blowing, that, especially for these ongoing games where, I mean, don't get me wrong, they are obviously writing as they go as well, but there is that general, like, they've planned as they've gone along. It's like, how does as a video game creator, as a studio, you develop a plan so vast over so many years and somehow cohesively put the pieces together?
Yep.
You know, like, it's such an incredible thought with these ongoing games. You know, and they just keep adding stuff where they go, oh, you know, when this happened back 5 years ago, this is what set in motion everything else that's gone on. It's like, wait, what?
Yeah, and it's very much with Final Fantasy 14 as well, especially.
Yeah, totally. I love those moments in video games though, where like as you're experiencing the moment, they just make you go, I fucking love video games.
Yeah.
It's like those moments where, and I had this a lot playing The Last of Us Part 2, where I was like, man, video games are so fucking cool. Like I love video games because it's a medium of storytelling that you just like, you can't accomplish that level of depth with a film or even a TV series because you're not as involved when you're passively watching TV.
Well, there's
but
also...
when it's a video game, you are the character and you're experiencing their story through their eyes.
And I guess it's
those that really well too.
I guess it's those little things that you can do in a video game that you wouldn't be able to achieve in a say a TV series or even a movie, because you can't just jump scene to scene to scene to scene with a game because it would feel disjointed. But it's all those little bits and pieces that are in between that tie the main story together. If it's done properly, it makes it so much more like enjoyable, if you know what I mean. And it's like there are some companies that are so good at it. Naughty Dog is one of them, and as I said, Bungie is another one. And you know, obviously with Final Fantasy and all those kind of games. Square Enix is good at it.
Too.
Yeah, and it's like
there's another one.
Like it's so just like mind blowing that you know that they can keep you engaged for. If I had to sit there and watch a 14-hour video or a movie of Resident Evil, I would not want to. I was going to say, but I will sit there and play, you know, 14 hours of Village and feel just engrossed in the entire experience. It's like, and it doesn't feel wrong. Whereas if you sat there and watched a 14-hour movie, you'd be like, why am I doing this? What is the point of this? What a waste of my time. Like,
it's also like when you're playing a video game, you are taking every step. You are firing every bullet. You're dying over and over again, and like you are going through the motions of every piece of that character's story, and like developing attachments to the character and the people around them, and like all the world building that you just can't do with a TV series or a movie. Just like from being able to explore the worlds that you inhabit when you play this video game, it's just there's just so much more depth to it. and like it's kind of why I get a little bit annoyed that video games as a storytelling medium gets snubbed so much, because it's like
it's slowly getting better, but it's still got a long way to go.
It's getting better for sure. Yeah,
I think
definitely.
a lot of people, like, they hear video games and think, oh, Fortnite, or, you know, something like that.
I think that's the problem. They think of the mainstream stuff.
Minecraft.
They don't think of stuff like The Last of Us
Minecraft,
Part 2, or like Detroit, or like The Walking Dead.
What do you mean? Minecraft has a beautiful story. It's wonderful.
Beautiful story of how to
It's
kill
a
your
story
friends
of.
with
I was
lava.
gonna say it's a story of survival and sacrifice.
We're not knocking those games.
No,
play
but
what you play by all means. I'm just talking about story-based games as like
Minecraft was it was really a game changer when that came out, and
I mean, it still is. It's
very popular.
Yeah, like it's still one of the.
I'm shocked at how popular it still is.
Yeah, and I think it's a good game for the younger generation to play. You know, to get to build and create, and as well, yes, attack monsters and get killed, but it's just a great platform for them as a first game.
You know,
it's such a good entry level game.
The thing that makes me laugh though is like I've bought lots of Pokemon games, but obviously they're different gens and they're different games, even though they're under the same banner. I've bought so many different versions of Minecraft, which is the same fucking game on everything imaginable. Like I've had it on Xbox, PlayStation, PC, Switch. Like I had it on mobile at one stage, and I'm like, I've put so much money into this for the same game to do the same thing for the most part. Why am I doing this to myself?
I encourage that any game that allows people to explore their creativity, like Minecraft does.
Absolutely.
It's like it gives, especially if you think about it, like with kids or teenagers who, you know, for a lot of them it's their escape. A lot of neurodivergent children as well. Children who live with autism, ADHD, whatever have you. It's an escape for them, and I think that's why a lot of neurodivergent people do like gravitate towards video games is the escapism of it. But
it's a good way.
It's an outlet for creativity.
Oh, absolutely. And I think that's the thing, you know, there's certain games that I'll play on stream, and there's certain games that I won't play on stream. And for the games I don't play on stream, it's because they're my escape from everything else. It's like, I need some time to just chill and play a game and enjoy myself without the pressure of streaming or, you know, day-to-day life or whatever. It's just that shut-off moment. Minecraft is 100% one of those where I can just jump into that and be like, yep, I'm relaxed. I'm angry now because a creeper just blew up my house. You know, like that kind of thing. And then it's like, and same with Destiny. I used to stream that, but now it's my game that I use to wind down or play, you know, and play with like Pedal and Danny and just to get away from the day-to-day stuff. And I think that's the beauty of video games, is that it's so easy.
There's so many different ones out there too.
Well, it's you know, there's a video game for everyone. Is the very basic reality of it all, you know, and it is sad that it's still to this day video games are seen as a lazy hobby or, you know, a waste of time. And it's like these things
in their mom's basements.
Oh my god, that just reminds me of LAN parties. Like old school LAN party stuff.
Playing WoW in a lock-in.
I went to one of those.
1,000 cables across the floor, and you know, like 7,000 Xboxes piled up in the corner. Like,
my dad actually, after you, Larissa, and then I'll tell this.
No, that's all right. I'm going to change the subject slightly, so you go first.
My dad actually ran a LAN business from our house for a while, for like a year, where we had like 8 Xboxes that were all hooked up by LAN cables on these old box televisions, and we had controllers, and we had 8 different copies of all these games, and like we would host LAN parties. We'd charge people to come sit in our shed and do a lock-in for 12 hours, you know, with like endless refreshments, and we would just fucking play Halo for 12 hours. It was great.
That sounds amazing.
It was incredible.
And you know what? I think developers of certain games, and It Takes Two is one that comes to mind, but like are trying to find ways to bring that dynamic of like couch co-op or, you know, back into it, even if you're not in the same room. And, you know, things like, another really good example is Overcooked is a really brilliantly done game. And, you know, it brings back that like nostalgia, but in an enjoyable way of just sitting there with your friends playing a just mindlessly fun game kind of thing.
One of my favorite recent memories of doing something like that is when you and Danny came to visit from the Netherlands, and we streamed Mario Kart, sitting on Larissa's
screaming at each other.
Next to each other, screaming at each other.
That was so much fun.
It was so much fun.
And on the stream, it didn't come through very well.
I know, I love that, and I miss that because we don't get that as much these days, especially with the pandemic. Is like, you know, but like video games are so accessible online now that like
I was gonna bring up the pandemic as I think part of the reason why video gaming is becoming more acceptable is because so like Among Us was huge early in the pandemic and Animal Crossing.
I was about to say Animal Crossing
because of Animal Crossing. It's like, everyone was playing Animal Crossing. Everyone.
I think Animal Crossing, you know, and this is just a small sort of segue off to the side for a second here. It was like, it came out that it wasn't planned to be, oh, this is a game that we can capitalize on during the pandemic, but the timing of that game coming out was perfect for Nintendo.
It was March, and it was just as we were starting the lockdowns here in Australia, and I think worldwide.
And I think that game would have been popular, but I don't think it would have been as popular given the circumstances.
I went to Supernova Melbourne convention, and just before everything, it was like the second last weekend before we went to lockdown, and they actually had like demos of Animal Crossing, and I played a bit. Oh yeah, this is really cute. I think it'll be a fun game. You know, I didn't really think too much of it. Fast forward a month, everyone's playing it.
Everyone's playing it. Like, it was literally
everyone
one of,
except for me.
Well, yeah, I remember. I remember.
Late to the party.
I remember when that game first came out, and we started playing it, and we were streaming it, and it was like, it's such a weird thought. It was one of the most streamed games on Twitch at the time.
It was.
Yeah, like everyone was playing Animal Crossing, and Kaylee's like, I don't understand why you play this game. Why are you playing this? I don't understand it. Didn't get it at all. And then, like, when Kaylee got their Switch, they got Animal Crossing, they're like, I understand now.
I was like, I don't get it. Yes, it's cute. And I like the, like, kind of interior design aspects of the game. But outside of that, like, there's a lot about the game that pisses me off.
It's mechanically got
to do with, like, the way that it controls and the lack of accessibility and the stupid fucking dialogue menus that never end.
They don't. That's so bad.
It's such a Nintendo game, though.
Yeah,
it is very Nintendo.
But once I played it, I was like, okay, I get it. But I still have all the same issues I had.
Oh, it's far from the perfect game because there are so many things that are so janky about it. Like the connectivity is probably my biggest issue. Is, you know, if someone crashes, the entire world just goes, oh, and then everyone.
Hours we have wasted trying to get everyone on the same fucking island.
We get 7 out of 8 people there, and then
boot everyone.
The funny thing is, like, when we... go on. Sorry.
Go Chris.
I was just gonna say, like, even though yes, it was a game that you could just dive into and just forget everything, what was happening, and all of that, but Animal Crossing as well as Among Us, Fall Guys, the big thing with all of them is that you can play with your friends.
Yes.
And I was going to say the same thing.
Since the start of pandemic, more and more companies are making multiplayer more in their games, like Stardew Valley, for example, because that was a solo game. Now you can play it with up to 3 friends. It's just given a different aspect to gaming. Like when I was having a chat to one of my classmates who's about my mum's age, I was talking about gaming, and she said, "Oh, you play with your friends?" I said, "Yeah, we played this together." He goes, "Oh, I didn't think you could play games together." Like, yeah, you can. And I was explaining how it all worked, and she was so surprised about that. And I said, "That's what we've done in the pandemic. We play games together as friends, and
it's so bizarre.
It's one of the ways we." Able to get through everything.
With the pandemic, a really good example of something that sounds so bizarre but has worked so beautifully for the last 3 years is that every year we've spent New Year's Eve in Animal Crossing.
Yeah.
It's become like a tradition.
Because we can't like
Yes.
gather together. I mean, we're all in different countries or whatever for the most part and whatever
Yeah.
else, but we can't gather
Yeah.
together like we normally would do at New Year's. So we're all just gathering in like the square in Animal Crossing, waiting for
Exactly.
fireworks.
Yeah.
Oh, my camera just froze.
But it's like it's games like
That's a
Animal
funny freeze
Crossing.
frame.
I was gonna say that's a
Animal
terrible
Crossing-
freeze frame.
Oh, that is
Yes.
horrendous. Your picture looks worse than mine now.
Come on, face cam, work with me.
I'm a T-Rex.
There we go. It does. It did. I was gonna say very Velociraptor kind of like. But yeah, it's so bizarre. Like to think that that was the norm. Like it was like we did it the first year. It's like, oh, this is cool, this is awesome. Then the next year, oh, what are we gonna do New Year's Eve? Oh, we'll go back to Animal Crossing.
Animal Crossing.
We haven't
Last
played
time I
it for 3 or
Animal
4 months.
Crossing Literally was that, and then I haven't touched
Yeah, I
the
think it
game
was,
since.
actually.
My
Whoops.
biggest disappointment is after that
That was pretty
massive update they did with like the fruit and veg and all that kind of stuff. It's now no longer getting updates, and like that makes me sad.
Yeah.
It's just such a shame that because the game could have
Kept
been
going,
so
like, they
much more
added
than
it
what it is, and they just
gradually.
didn't develop it enough. And it's like it's such a shame that they didn't fully capitalize on it during the height of its popularity.
Yeah.
And it's one of those games that's like everybody's playing it for a month and then nobody's playing it.
Yeah.
And it's like, and it
They
happened
did the huge
when
update, and then
with every big update it had, everybody would play it for a month and then everyone would stop because it doesn't go any deeper than that. And it's such a shame because it has so much potential. I'm like, if only we could mod it, if only the modders could get their hands on it, because then it could be so much more. But unfortunately, because it's on the Switch, that's not really.
I think I think now that I think they'll definitely. There's no way on God's green earth they won't do a sequel or another game in that series because they've seen how successful it can be. But I would like to see this concept of Animal Crossing New Horizons made more with what it's got, but expanded to be more. Not heading towards, but like Stardew Valley and that kind of concept where there's a bit more. You build your farms up and you grow your vegetables and you visit your friends but it's more of a like building relationship kind of thing as well and getting to know them more than just generic like the same person saying the same thing over and over again.
They could have done a lot more with the characters. I think there's just so many of them, but they reuse a lot of the dialogue. So if you get two villagers of the same sort of like personality type, they say almost the same things.
Yeah.
Where the game becomes like Groundhog Day very quickly.
It does.
Where it's like you get deja vu constantly because there's no variation to it, and they didn't bother to add any variation. And it's like even with the events, they're the same every year. They don't change. And I'm like, this is such a missed opportunity. It's such a waste of potential.
Yeah.
Especially because it is fairly normal for gaming companies to we're redoing the Easter event, but update it for the new year or just give different rewards this time around or stuff like that. It's pretty normal in games, but they're just like, nope, it's the same this year. You get the same rewards.
It's like Final Fantasy 14 with the Easter, Christmas, all those other big events that go on during the year. They're different every year, and they've got different rewards,
different quests, different rewards every year.
Absolutely,
I was so disappointed when the Easter event rolled around in Animal Crossing and it was the same thing. I'm like, I'm not even going to bother.
Exactly the same.
Why do I need to do this?
Everybody fucking hated the Easter event the first time around, and then they did nothing to change it.
Nah.
It's like that shows us how little you care about our opinion right there. Yeah. And it's like you're not going to create loyalty from a player base if you're not even going to listen to what they want.
Yeah.
I would have been okay to have lesser characters and just develop the characters.
Oh look, I have to say though, I never
many of them.
I never tire of the fact that Pedal plays Animal Crossing. They've got Antonio on their island, and he's
I love Antonio,
and he's very what kind of character does he fall under? What's his classification as a character? Is he a jock?
He's a jock, yes.
And so you know how you can give them a
He talks
a
about his
catchphrase. I said Pat was like, what catchphrase do I give to Antonio? And I went, you really should give him like, bruh. Like, B-R-U-U-H. And so one of the first interactions he had after he got the gave him this new catchphrase was he came in and he's like, you have a toilet, bruh? I'm like, oh my god. I got that. Battle sent me this like screenshot of like Antonio with like, and it's that shocked look that they do. So he's like, you got a toilet, bruh? And he's like got this shocked look on his face. I'm like, this is just brilliant. Like 10 out of 10. Best interaction ever. Like
my least favorite thing that my Animal Crossing villagers have done is, for some reason, they all call me K-Beans now, and I hate it. It is the worst nickname I've ever had in my life, and that is saying something.
K-Beans.
K-Beans. Poppy started it. She was like, can I call you K-Beans? And I was like, I hate that nickname, but I love you, so yes. And then everybody started asking.
Oh, I heard that.
And I was like, why is this a thing? I don't want it. But I feel bad saying no to them.
It spreads like wildfire. Because I think one of Petal's other villagers, who wasn't a jock, just a random villager, started also saying, "Oh, I hear the word to use is bruh." So all of their like villagers are going around going, "Bruh." Like, oh god.
One thing with the changes was that they can visit your house. So like you'll be in the middle of redecorating your house, and they're like, "Oh, we'll come over," and you can't get rid of them.
The only way to get rid of them is to leave your own home.
So you leave your own house to go straight back in because you're like, get the fuck out.
You gotta leave.
They
like,
just invite themselves in. That's why whenever I log into the game now, I hide in my bedroom for a good 5 minutes and then leave the house. Because if you're in another room and they knock on the door, you can just wait till they fuck off.
And it's just like, I just picture you like sitting in the bedroom, peering out the curtains. Are they gone yet?
Like Poppy knocks at my door, like, "Hey, K-Beans, you're home." I'm like, "No, it's here."
Go away.
That reminds me of a funny interaction
I'm sitting in my wicker wardrobe, like, piss off, get out of here. It's usually Sylvia, though, to be honest, and I don't want to talk to her.
No,
well, Gilbert is lazy and he's a little blue squirrel. And when I haven't played for a while, he said, "I've been waiting outside your house and I've been watching. But I did go away to go to the bathroom because I didn't think you'll find that appropriate if I did that in front of your house."
Like, bro,
that's terrible. I remember having that.
I own this island.
Remember when that reminds me of that situation that I had with Tex. I think I was during stream, and Tex was like in my house, and everything he was saying really made him sound like a serial killer. Like, he's like, "I've been waiting for you to get home. Oh, do you mind if I hang around? I'm just gonna take my shoes off." And it's like, I don't want you to be here. I'm feeling very uncomfortable. I cannot look at Tex the same ever again. Like,
I think it was one of my smug villagers that I had. I think, oh god, I can't remember now. But they were saying like, "Oh, I've been hanging out in my basement," and something about like there being screams, but not to worry. I'm like, what is going on?
Oh god.
They say
they don't even have a basement.
Unsettling shit sometimes.
Oh my god.
It is very just for such a like. I won't say kid friendly. Like it's very PG.
It's a wholesome.
It's meant to be PG wholesome, and then you get like that kind of stuff going on.
And then they say shit like that, and you're like,
"Yeah,
I'm gonna log off now."
Yeah.
It's like I went and planted some flowers, and then I watched you while you sleep. Like, it's like, oh god.
Another thing I wanted to bring up too before I forget, but talking about games and the pandemic. It's just some of the games recently that have just been so beautiful. Like there's Horizon Forbidden West for one that was like
it's gorgeous.
Oh, it's so beautiful. And like I showed a clip of that from Mum to Mum. She goes, "That's from a game." I said, "Yeah, that's from a video game." She goes, "It looks like it's like a movie."
Yeah.
Just the amount of detail in it. And like Kenna, I loved Kenna, and that was like playing a Disney film. Beautiful.
It's literally playing a Disney movie.
Yeah, and it's just like. And that's why games like people are like, why do you spend $80, $100 on a game? Like
because look at it,
it's amazing.
It's also like those, especially those AAA titles, but like they've put so much work into like creating this experience. Like it's not just it's an experience. That's the word, and there's so many games, especially. I mean, I'm a great believer in. I love games that look beautiful, like obviously graphically gorgeous. But then there's also the other side where graphics don't always equal good game. Like
No.
there are some beautiful games like
this. Do not go hand in hand.
This game looks fantastic,
Yes,
but it's a
like
turd.
Cyberpunk, for example.
Oh my god, I love
Oh, man.
I love absolutely tearing that game a new one because
What a
forget all the controversy
Yes.
with the other stuff. Just from a graphical standpoint, like it's all good when it's running smoothly, but the moment it's not, it has got some of the most horrific graphical glitches and bugs I've ever seen in a game ever. Like full stop. And like I would not have been happy if I had bought that game. I haven't bought it anyway, but bought it at launch and played it and it just be broken because it wasn't even like sort of issues. There were game breaking things going on.
Yeah.
I do feel bad for games that have that happen though, because I know
Yeah.
Assassin's Creed Unity like had that whole controversy when it came out where like horrific like glitches where all
their face
the
would just
NPCs
disappear.
were just eyeballs and mouth. Like
Oh,
you know,
God.
terrifying.
It was horrible.
But like I went back and I played that game like a year after launch. They'd fixed all the bugs and it's a solid game now. And I'm like,
It runs
if they had
now.
just released it a year later, it like this game would have been like the best Assassin's Creed game ever and all the stuff, but like because they released it too early, it is forever associated with those things. And Cyberpunk's going to be exactly the same way. Even if they eventually get the game running perfectly, it will forever be scarred by the fact it was released too early.
I mean, the thing with Cyberpunk though is regardless of the fact that it needed a good 3-4 more years in the oven, is the fact that I think it was just a failure on every level as far as like development standpoint, like looking at it from the perspective of development. On every level, that game was a failure. It had so much marketing that built up so much hype, like all the stuff with Keanu Reeves, and like there was so much hype building up for the game for 2 years. And I've never seen a game crash that hard after all of that hype. They built it up way too much. They knew what they were releasing was completely broken, and they released it anyway. And I'm like, why did you do that?
I can think of an example of because Cyberpunk never recovered. Even if it never recovered. Even now, it has.
Oh, there's one that did. Oh, what was it called?
No Man's Sky.
No Man's Sky.
Yeah.
Yes.
No Man's Sky was so hyped up when it launched. It was a disaster, and I'm talking. It's probably one of the worst launches in video game history. It was awful. Yep. To being now winning awards for best ongoing game because they realized they, putting it bluntly, fucked up. And went, we need to just... And they didn't charge people for the updates. They didn't charge people for the upgrades. They didn't do any of that. They're like, we are going to rebuild this. Give us a chance. So, and they did. Yep. And now it's a phenomenal game. Like, it's a fantastic game. But like...
Final Fantasy 14 also.
I was about to say, Larissa, did the same thing.
Same thing.
Final Fantasy 14 originally released 11 years ago. And it was fucking terrible. And everybody at the time stopped playing it because it was fucking awful. So they went back to the drawing board. They got a new director. Yeah. Yoshi P does a fucking phenomenal job. He's amazing. He's a god. We love him.
Yes.
he took over. They rebuilt the whole thing from the ground up. And even more than that, they didn't just erase the original game. They incorporated the original into the new one.
Yes.
Story-wise. So it's like,
they did,
and then it went on to be from the beginning of A Realm Reborn to now the end of Endwalker that has just released a 8-year-long saga of story, and it's still going strong, and it will
the
go
largest
and
MMO
go
right
and go
now
for 5-10 more years to come, and it is the best MMO I think that has ever been released.
Absolutely.
It fucks WoW to death.
Yeah, it does. When I used to play WoW
fanboys, but it does. But like, it's just phenomenal. And what a recovery.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And don't get me wrong, I think there's a quote that I think of every time I see a game launch that is so badly broken, and it's something that Shigeru Miyamoto said years ago, who's the maker of Mario. And he goes,
Yes.
a delayed game is eventually good, but a bad game is bad forever.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I 100% wish developers use that mentality before they launched a game.
But
Because-
even
Well,
then,
it's publishers that are usually more the issue.
Oh, you know,
publishers are the problem.
Yeah.
yeah.
But even then, like with games like No Man's Sky, Final Fantasy 14, even Assassin's Creed Unity, now people are starting to go back to that and realize, oh hey, they fixed it. Let's play this now, and it's actually a good game. But like, they now, because the developers have taken the time to go back and fix their games and make them as good as they can be.
Yeah.
Now in perpetuity they'll be remembered as still the game that fucked up in the beginning, but
it's a redemption story.
Yeah, it's a redemption story instead of a tragedy like
Yeah.
Cyberpunk is and probably always will be, because they've said they're not going to fix it any further. So
Yeah.
I'm like, I mean, you could be No Man's Sky, but you choose to be Cyberpunk 2077.
Yeah, I mean, that's what it is. That's what it is
If
at the end of the
there's one
day.
thing I ask of devs, don't be Cyberpunk.
I mean, that's the
No.
difference between
Test
some of
your
these
game
studios
to
who
audience.
don't
Yeah.
fix issues, is that the ones that listen to their audience and their communities, you know, and like you said, Final Fantasy is a good example. Destiny went through that phase too, you know, the base game, and then Activision got involved and they got rid of them because they just absolutely screwed it all over. Was like, they have had that redemption and they listen to their audience and they listen to their community and what they want improved and everything else. And the same with No Man's Sky, is that a game, at launch, if it does come out and it's shit, okay, that's not good. You should have put more time into it. But it's also that additional story of like, if they improve it afterwards and actually fix it so that it's a playable game without penalizing their audience either. It annoys me when developers are like, we're going to fix this game, but you have to buy an upgrade to fix it. It's like, get out of here. You didn't put the game out properly in the first place. Now you want me to buy an upgrade so it works properly? Like, that's not...
Final Fantasy 7 Remake did, and it's fucking annoying.
Yeah.
It's like, that is so dumb. Like, why would you do this?
Final Fantasy 7 Remake on the PS5, phenomenal. Works so well, looks gorgeous, and that's how it should have been when it was released.
Yeah.
But it wasn't. And that's like, for a studio like that too, whose like quality level is usually so high, everyone expects that level of quality from their games. So for them to put out something that was well below that was frankly weird.
Yeah.
But now that I have the PS5 version, which I thankfully got for free, but not everyone had that luxury, I'm like, yeah, this is how it should have been when it was released a fucking year ago. Why did it take them this long to sort this out? But it's like, now you're charging people another $120 for the same game how it should have been the first time they purchased it.
It's so weird.
That's why it's a big thing with like a lot of games. Like a big thing with PlayStation games right now is people want PS4 games to offer free PS5 upgrades. And there was one game that was kind of recent where it was Horizon, where they were initially said it's not going to get the free PS5 upgrade if you get it on PS4, and people were like, that's bullshit. What do you mean? Like, all these other games are doing it. And you know, because it is a thing too where like if you own the PS4 edition of that game, you are getting a lesser experience.
Yes.
Whereas if you then purchase a PS5, why should you have to pay $60 again to get the better
especially
experience?
when even to this day the PS5 is still like hard to get.
Wildly inaccessible.
Yeah, and so it's like, you know, you're penalizing the people who have had to wait for a PS5 because your own production is not enough, on top of the fact that, you know, it just doesn't make any sense from
Scalpers.
Scalpers are the world's the bane of everyone's existence. But yeah, no, it's one of those things. Like a really interesting one that's coming out later this year is that Resident Evil 2, 3, 7, and 8 are all getting graphical updates for free.
Right.
For free. Like they're adding a whole heap of they're improving like resolution and all the rest of it. They're, you know, ray tracing's being added to some of them, etc. Like they're doing a whole heap of graphical updates for all of these games, and I'm like, and it's free, and I'm like, okay, Village I understand because Village hasn't been out that long. 7 I kind of understand because, you know, Village is popular. 7's part of that main story. But like, even to go back to the 2 and 3 remakes and go, you know what, we're gonna improve those for you as well and not charge a cent for it. It's like, that is good customer relation stuff. That's like, you've invested your money in this game. If you already own it, we're not charging you for it. You just get it. It'll be a free update when it comes out, and then you'll be able to play it with all the new bells and whistles, basically. And it's like, but not every studio, not every publisher will do that. And it's like, it makes you wonder what the mentality is other than money. But it's like, especially for games that have big franchises, you know, like Resident Evil, like Final Fantasy, like, you know, Destiny, like all of these things that people have invested so much money into already without going, look, we're going to put a new nice shiny coat of paint on it. Here's another $50 you got to spend on it. It's like, wait, what?
And even like developers who think of the community, like Final Fantasy 14 again, like when they had a lot of issues with people unable to log in because of the traffic onto the servers, and they gave everyone like free game time. And there was a lot of apologies, and like that's the way to handle it. They didn't have to, no. And they're also working on improving the graphics as well. And which would just be part of the game. Like, you won't have to pay any extra for it, but they're updating like the character models and a few other things as well, which are in the works. So
the constant updates they make to the free trial as well as the game gets further and further on is like the free trial used to just include the base game, everything within the base game, and that was it, the Realm Reborn. But now it includes the first expansion, and now also the updates after the first expansion and everything that comes with the first expansion. They just keep expanding that free trial because they know that in order to get a good first, like, sort of a good glimpse at the full experience, you have to play Heavensward, because A Realm Reborn and Heavensward may as well be completely different games. It's not even remotely the same experience.
If you can get the Heavensward, you're hooked, and that's it.
If you get to Heavensward, you're good from there. It only gets better.
It only gets better.
But it's like, I think Cory was about to touch on that, is that with these sort of experiences and going back and being able to play those things, I've lost my train of thought partly. Cory, go on. I'll get back to my thing in a minute. You were going to say something.
I was just kind of saying it's about earning your loyalty. Like, that's what it is with developers, is like they're proving to you, like, you know, we know we fucked up with this, like, and we're going to earn back, you know, your loyalty. We're going to earn back your trust in us. And that's why, like, Cyberpunk giving up is, like, they're not trying to bring back their player base. And so when they release their next game in the future, like, people are gonna be hesitant because, like, oh, your last game was Cyberpunk 2077, and look at how dog shit that is, you know?
Yeah, they shoot themselves in the foot by doing that.
But there's also the other side of this, and you see this a lot, you know, with especially when you're saying about like free trials and that. Destiny went through the same process of, like, the base game is now free, and then, like, you buy the expansions, and that's because they want to increase the accessibility to people to give it a go before they invest the money. But then there's this other side of people who, like, but I paid for it. And it's like, that was like 2, 3, 4 years ago. You know, you paid for it, and these people have got to earn money from it, otherwise you'll never get any more content ever again.
But it's also like that mentality of, like, you saying that comes from a place of privilege where you are able to pay for the game.
Yeah.
There are people who are not able to and would maybe like to enjoy the experience as well. And that's like, and a lot of people, I think, that have that mentality also think that, like, oh, well, they'll just skate by and play it for free forever. And I'm like, for the three of us, when we first started playing Final Fantasy 14, we were very skeptical, all three of us. And, like, within 2 days of me starting the free trial, I bought the game. I was like, I'm hooked, I'm done, I'm sold, and I've been paying for it for 3 years straight.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'm like, not everybody is going to ride the coattails of playing the game for free. A lot of people who play the game for free decide that they love it, will then go on to spend money. Genshin Impact.
That's another game that
that's
a ludicrous amount of money in Genshin Impact, and I shouldn't have done, but I can't help myself. I want the fucking costume.
That is a nasty cough you've got there.
I'm asthmatic.
But Genshin is another one of those games that just really popular, and yeah, it's free to play to a point. Then you do end up spending money in the game. Yeah.
That sort of game annoys me though. That sort of gacha thing where like, yeah, you can play the game for free, but it's going to be significantly harder for you than it is for the people who just pay.
Pokemon Cafe mixes like that too.
Yeah, that's the mobile game like
games. Yeah.
The big thing with that is so many mobile games are so easy to put microtransactions in, and it's like the big thing in the gaming industry right now is continuing to monetize your game afterwards. So a lot of games are putting in microtransactions.
I hate it. I hate to pay to win.
I hate it. I mean, it's such a trap. It's such a money trap, and it's like people who are susceptible to that are the people who are spending putting hundreds of hours into playing these games. Because they're having to constantly be on that grind because they don't spend money. And it's like, if you spend money, you won't have to put 600 hours into this game. You can accomplish the same thing in 100 hours. But it's like, so it's kind of that thing of like, to some people their time is worth more, some people their money is worth more. And then some people are somewhere in between. But it's like, you know, it's not really, advertising it as free to play is kind of rude at that point, because it's like, yes, you can play it for free. Is it going to be as easy and enjoyable an experience? Absolutely not.
I notice now, like when you like on your phone in the app store, as a game, it says free, but it says like includes in-game transactions. I always go and look at that to see what the in-game transactions are, because that will give you a bit of an idea. Like it's like buying heaps of gems or something like that. Or is it just one that you could purchase like cosmetic things or something? I always check that before I install
like I'm not opposed to not all cosmetics obviously, but a small portion of cosmetics in any game, if that's an additional cost, cool, because it's not game changing, it's just cosmetic.
We did that with Devour, even though you have to pay for Devour, but we saw the outfits, like, we have to buy this outfit. I want to wear this outfit.
I was spending extra money. Which is a weird thought that I spent.
Affect, like, how you play the game. It's just like
it does affect how you play. I play that game and I feel fabulous. There is nothing.
It certainly affects our confidence as a group when we go in to exercise the demon. Like, look at us, we look fabulous.
When I'm sacrificing goat demons, I want to look fabulous.
I'm gonna strut towards that demon.
You can't handle my fabulousness.
Get out of my house, bitch.
I see Chef Tyson carrying a goat, and I know we'll be fine.
I was going to say, exactly.
They should do that with Phasmo.
Phasmo, they should have in the different outfits. Imagine doing like a ghost hunt and like wearing something like Scooby-Doo outfits.
Pajama girl.
That was actually in the April Fool's thing that they posted.
Was it?
They were going to be adding new character models and outfits, and I was like, I wish this.
I laughed on that.
Cool.
I laughed on that. I read through that, and there were so many things in that I legitimately wanted to be in Phasmo, but the one that made me laugh the most was one of the ghosts was like, oh no, it was the twins. It's like one of the two twins will join you and help you with the hunt. I'm like, oh my god.
Yeah. But I was like, that would be kind of awesome, though.
That would be kind of cool. It's like you got Casper following you along as you try, you know.
They both pull out swords and start fighting.
Oh my god.
The thing about that thing that annoyed me was that, like, it was April 2nd for me when they posted it, so I didn't realize right away. So I was like, oh, an update. And I looked, and I got about 2 lines in, I was like, I don't think this is legit. But, like... There was so much in there that I was like, this would be so awesome if it was real.
The maps were actually really interesting. I was like, those 3 maps would have been... Because it was... What was it? It was a lighthouse.
It was a lighthouse, a church with a graveyard, and something else. I forgot what the other one was.
I can't remember what the other one was, but yeah. I was like, oh, that's cool. I want that. I was like... Because the lighthouse had like 6 or 7 rooms. I'm like, so it'd be kind of like... Say Tanglewood Street, for example.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that would be kind of cool. Like, we've had our first dose of...
Can you imagine in that, though?
Being in the lighthouse and getting chased by a ghost down the, like, stairs in the actual tower?
Oh my god. I just got this image
That
of
would be
the.
so good. Look at Cory's.
I love where we all go for the pajama girl as an example, but can you just her like shuffling down the stairs?
Yeah, imagine her crawling down the. Imagine if they changed it so she was crawling along the ceiling. That would be.
Oh no!
I could see them doing that at some point.
But
I could see them doing that at some
That's
point.
like a ceiling ghost. Oh.
Yes.
Like that,
Oh,
like
no.
the vampire from The Witcher season 2.
Oh god,
Yes.
I hated that.
Traumatizing.
Yes.
Yeah, no. But yeah, no, and you know, we're talking about these multiplayer games that we play together. Like, it's a strange thought, sort of a segue here before we wrap up shortly. It's like we've been streaming together as a collective for like 3.5 years, roughly now.
Something
Yeah,
like
no,
that.
yeah.
And it's like, how do we manage to keep this going? You know, like we play all these different games and that, but somehow,
I've played a lot of different games.
somehow we just this dynamic works, and
I'm glad you asked, Tyson, because I've prepared a TED talk for just such a topic.
Okay. Strap yourselves in. Here we go.
It's quite simple, really. It is 100% because the four of us are such good friends and have such good rapport with each other and have such a great dynamic. That's the only reason we've managed to keep this going for so long.
I
was waiting for something.
Who are you? What have you done with Kaylee?
Let me be sappy for a second. Shut the fuck up, Tyson. But it's like the four of us genuinely love each other and we're great friends, and we like bounce off each other so well, and like our different brands of humor all like work so well together, and as a group and as a dynamic we have spent so much time playing video games together that like we just know each other.
I was going to say we also know our like we know
strengths
that
and our weaknesses and...
Well, it's that, and it's that we know each other's limits in regards to like jokes, and we don't take anything seriously. You know, like we know that if we're calling each other names and whatever else, like sometimes that's why, especially when we had like one of us has been raided, it's like that we're not seriously like angry at each other just so that people realize that, because usually it's like,
we dial every time one of us gets raided, we're like dialing it up to 11. We're like, I feel like everyone who's ever rated us while we're multi-streaming must be like, wow, these people really don't like each other.
Especially when it's like you can understand in Phasmo and things like that, but like we're playing Stardew Valley and like, we're yelling and screaming,
the fact
and
that we managed to make Stardew Valley so not safe for work and so like absolutely chaotic when it is the chillest game ever made.
Yes.
I don't know how, but
special.
we do.
We have talent.
Yes, that is exactly the word I would use.
Talent. But like we can't all sort of meet in person. So like over the last 3-4 years, it's through playing video games that we've been able to hang out and get to know each other and have that friendship. Without the video game side of things, we wouldn't really have that friendship, if you get what I mean.
We wouldn't have met each other for that. Yeah, like
no,
we wouldn't
exactly. We wouldn't
if
have.
it wasn't
So that's
for
why
video games and content creation, none of us would know each other. And
No.
it's
And
like,
Ruby.
tiny.
And Ruby.
Yeah, and Ruby. I think
Tiny.
about this all the
Doing
time,
what I'm
though,
doing
where
now.
like I find myself
Yeah.
thinking about this all the time, where like I can't imagine a life in which I don't know these three people, because these three people are so central to my life, and I would not be the person I am today if I hadn't met these three people. I would be somebody that, like, if I didn't know these three wonderful, beautiful humans, I know for a fact I would be somebody that I hate.
I'm
Because I
so
used to
glad
be
this is
somebody
being
that I hate.
recorded.
Say it later.
I just play this over and over again.
Like the three of you, and I feel like we could all say this about each other, right? That
Yeah.
like the three of you have made me grow so much as a person, and I've had the privilege of watching them grow so much as people. And like coming into our own, and like the fact that when we all met, we were completely different people to who we are now, except for maybe Larissa. She's exactly the same. But like
I don't know.
teasing.
There are occasions where Larissa comes out of her shell and shocks the fuck out of all of us and go, "Oh my god, that was Larissa."
She's not as innocent as she looks.
No.
If anything, we've
Look
made
at that
Larissa
face.
worse.
We've corrupted her. She's
We've
corrupted
corrupted
her.
We've corrupted Larissa.
But I look
no,
at
like and like also the fact that all four of us have come out as queer since meeting one another, and it's like birds of a feather, I guess. But like you know, before
Like,
any of us even knew the others were
yeah.
queer, we
No.
all sort of gravitated towards each other. I find that very funny. But
I guess it's that. Oh,
Ruby,
sorry. Yeah, go on. Ruby, yes.
like for one, Ruby.
Exhibit A, and just pointing behind you.
Exhibit A.
Ruby.
Exhibit A.
Ruby. Like, I wouldn't have met Kaylee, and of course you guys. Like Tyson met us because of RTX Sydney, and of course Ruby being associated with that. Like, I wouldn't have done my YouTube most likely, though we were considering doing gaming more than that, but it was through Ruby that I really got into gaming and streaming, cosplay, and now I've quit my job and studying fashion design to be a fashion designer, all because of Ruby.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's just, even though Ruby's not a game, but it's just one of those things that just brings you together, makes such an impact on your life that it's changes everything.
I mean, I look at us as a collective, as a, and I mean this in the nicest possible way, a dysfunctional family.
Yeah,
that is
totally.
This is literally like the siblings fighting each other kind of situation, you know. Like,
Mom and Dad are fighting again.
But it's like, you're absolutely right, Tyson, in that what we have developed here is a family.
Yeah.
And like, especially for myself, who is someone who's very disconnected from their birth family, this is my family. These four people here. This is where my family is. And like,
I really want to respond with "you're adopted"
for
then.
the world, but like I say, shut up. I say this often, but like I can't put into words what Ruby has given me and has given all four of us. What it has given us is each other, and that's like worth more to me than anything. Larissa, don't you start crying. I see you over there. Stop it.
It's so bizarre, though.
Stop.
Like, even in my perspective, I mean, I didn't get... I love Ruby, and I've watched Ruby from almost the get-go kind of thing, and blah, blah, blah. But, like, it's such a weird thought that I went to Sydney, RTX Sydney, for multiple reasons. Obviously, because it was Rooster Teeth content and that. And then, like, sitting back and going... If it wasn't for the fact that Kaylee decided to engage in conversation with me at the airport, like, forget the stalking jokes and things that I make all the time.
Well, you were wearing a Ruby t-shirt.
You know, and
well.
but it's
Ruby?
yeah, it was. I was wearing one of my and it was that engagement of like Kaylee going, that person's wearing a Rooster Teeth shirt. We're sitting at the airport. Let's just have a conversation, and then going from that point to like meeting you guys, and then like. Thinking, if I hadn't done that, I wouldn't have gotten into content creation. And if I didn't do that, I wouldn't have met Danny.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't have met Pedal. And it's like, that's mind-blowing to think that one
so weird how
singular moment has crafted the last, like, 4 or 5 years of my life.
It kind of scares me when I think about it, because it's like, it's the same for all of us knowing each other. It's like, if I had never made Ruby videos and Cory had never commented on one of those Ruby videos.
If I not looked up Ruby music videos, I never would have met Kaylee, and I have no idea where my life would be.
Yeah,
like
I have no idea where my life would be, because he is the most important person in my life, and he knows this because I tell him all the time how important.
Oh, get back in your box, Cory. Stop
but
it.
It's like. It's like it's so crazy that like I don't usually believe in fate or destiny, but I do believe that the four of us were fated to meet one another, because like what our lives have evolved into from meeting one another has been insane. But it's like you say, I was freshly separated. I was on my own for the first time in ever. My life was a disaster, falling apart at the seams, and I was sitting in the Adelaide airport wearing a Ruby t-shirt, and I saw this guy across from me who looked harmless wearing a Ruby t-shirt.
That was your first mistake.
I knew that we were going to the same convention because we were going on the same flight to Sydney on the same day. And so I just said to him, cool shirt. And he looked up and saw my shirt, instant connection. And it's like, that one where I'm not a social person. I normally hate talking to people in public, but because I saw that connection, I was like, I'm gonna strike up a conversation with this guy because he's alone too, and like I was, you know, at a time in my life where I felt very lonely. But like, if I hadn't have done that, and we hadn't have made that connection on that day, it's like you said, our lives both would be completely different. And like, I wouldn't know Danny or Petal either. We wouldn't have formed Nerds and Noobs. Like, there's so many things that wouldn't have happened if we hadn't.
This is why quite often I joke to Danny, especially Danny, because I like giving him shit more than anyone else. I go, you know, I blame Kaylee for you.
Like, it was my fault. I take responsibility.
It's literally Kaylee's fault that you and I are a thing, you know?
It's crazy to me though that one fraction of a second of a moment can have that much power. Yeah. And it's like that one decision that you make can set your life on a path you never would have dreamed of.
Yeah, exactly.
And like and I feel that same way about meeting all three of you, is that like there are so many amazing people I wouldn't know, so much community I wouldn't have, so many opportunities I wouldn't have had if I hadn't met a single one of you people. Like 100%. If any of the three of you were not in my life, it would be very different. But like, and it's by such chance and happenstance that we all met each other. Yep. And all of this is completely my fault, and I take 100% responsibility.
Yeah.
For time travelers, like, when you need to save the world from us as a group, take out Kaylee.
I was gonna say, if you go back and take out Kaylee, we're all good. Nothing else will, you know.
Yeah, take out Kaylee. Then we'll never meet. It's fine.
Like Chris and I met really like randomly as well, because we were both thinking of joining the Defence Force, and we were in the Defence Force recruiting office waiting for our interviews, and we just got talking, added on Facebook, and then it was a year later when I broke up with my ex and everything, you decided, oh, you know, go meet for coffee, and that been together
and
10 years this
him
month.
at first too.
I did.
You did.
I mean, I can't blame you. It is Chris.
Don't get him started on that story.
We've heard this.
He never lets me let that down. Oh God. But yeah, it was just, you know, that chance meeting of that, and you know,
it's
we could have not talked to each other, or I could have decided not to go, or you know,
I've said this to Cory before too, but like, our relationship has been so weird over the last 8 years. It has like gone through a lot of different phases, but like, thinking back on it now, he was 16 when I met him, and I was 20. Or I was 19, almost 20, I think.
I mean, I was almost 17.
You were almost 17. I was almost 20 when we met. And it's like, it was a very weird, or was I almost 19? I don't know. It was too long ago now. But no, 20. I'm 28 now. It's been 8 years. Yeah. Anyway, but it was, I'm like, looking back on it now, I'm like, that's kind of weird that like a 16-year-old and a 19-year-old were like friends. That's like not something
really
I would do
this
now.
day and age though.
But then when I think about it, I'm like, there's so many younger members of Nerds and Noobs that I've known since they were 16, 15. So I'm like, is that weird? Just not really, but
but also like you and me, we were friends, but we didn't like really like become better friends until I was almost 18, because it was around your divorce when I feel like our friendship really like blossomed beyond that. And so it's less weird then.
Yeah, I say this to Cory all the time though, but like he's right. We didn't become really good friends until my life fell apart. But like,
it's also when we sort of become friends too.
Yeah, and it's a big thing to say about a person, but if it wasn't for him, I just wouldn't be here. Because without him, I wouldn't have made it through that time. And there are other times since then I wouldn't have made it through. And it's like,
we've all been through stuff, and
we've all been through shit, and like
life. Life's wonderful, isn't it?
Life can be shit sometimes, you know. And sometimes life makes you want to jump off a bridge, but like when you have that support system already in place, and I have these three people that I know I can turn to, it's easier, you know.
Yeah,
and we play video games together, and you know. You need to go shoot some monsters. Let's go do it.
Scream at each other.
I love
Screams
our
the
weird
word.
dysfunctional little family.
Dysfunctional little family. That's exactly it. There's no other
Yeah.
better way. I can't think of a better way to describe this collective of people.
Yeah.
So I think that's actually a nice spot to wrap up on. Actually,
Yeah, let's wrap this shit up before we get too much sappier.
I was going to say it's a nice sort of wrap up without becoming like a sob story, you know, like.
I just like I look back on my life now, like 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago, and I don't recognize myself for a number of reasons. But I'm like, who was that person? I hate who they were.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I could never imagine being that person now. And it's like, that was a person that I don't like. I don't ever want to be. And like a person who I disagree with on every level. And it's only because I met these 4 people and how much they've all changed my life that like I am somebody who I can be somewhat proud of.
I think it's that mentality that we bring out the best in each other. We also bring out the worst, but you know,
yes.
but we bring out.
We do, but it's like in such a good way.
In such a good way.
We bring out. We're all different people, but we are all very similar, and
yes.
like we are of similar minds as well. Like our minds are very. We're
Which
all on the
is
same page.
Very disturbing sometimes.
Yes, we rarely argue because
when we did like a
we're
personality test and we're all like the same personality type.
We're all the same. Yeah, we were all the same.
Was it the mediator?
Yeah,
something like that.
The mediator. Yeah,
I remember that.
But like, I'll say as well, like these last few years with video games being such a big part of my life more than it used to be, it's really changed a lot of things for me as well. And getting to play them with you guys, but also just experience it and meet all these amazing people is just why gaming's so important to me.
I think it's also helped, especially with my side of things as well. It's put me from being. I mean, I before I started doing this as a full-time thing, it was even then it was like I was in the public eye, but I was like doing event coordination stuff. So it was like I was dealing with the public, but not on a like social or interaction level. And so when I first started doing this, it was a nerve-wracking thing. I think it's don't get me wrong, I still have my days where I'm like I it's hard, but like it's changed my ability to be able to engage with people and being able to be a bit more confident in myself and who I am, and to accept the fact that not everyone's going to like me. Fine, I'm cool with that. I couldn't manage that even if I was able to. I would just be like, that's too hard. But like the people that do that enjoy, whether it's the content or just the random bullshit that we're slinging at each other or whatever, that means so much to me because they're the ones that count. They're the ones that I, am happy to put on a stream and go, hi guys, I'm an idiot and you're just going to sit here and laugh at me. It's that. I appreciate that. And that's, I would never have dreamed I'd be doing that 5 years ago. I'd be putting myself in that position where I'm out for public ridicule in the most positive of ways. Like it's such a weird thought.
It's that too of like, we keep each other in check.
Yes.
If one of us is being a dickhead, the other 3 are like, hey, you're kind of being a dickhead. Like,
Yeah.
And like we've had to do it for each other before, like, and it's like it's so easy when you're a content creator to get wrapped up in this idea of I just want everyone to like me.
Yeah.
But everyone is never going to like you, and the most important thing is that like if these 3 people like me and are proud of me, that's all I need. Like screw everybody else. Who cares what everybody else thinks?
Yeah, exactly.
And it's like I lost my train of thought. Man, it's a day for that, isn't it?
It's
I'm just
for
staring
me.
at the corner at the moment.
Yeah.
I'm trying not to look at it because it derails me every time I look at it because I want to laugh hysterically.
I think it's that mentality of it has trained, especially with me, it's trained my brain to finally realize that I won't be accepted by everyone, but those who accept me are the most important people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, especially it is one of those things too with like, most people have self-worth issues. and it's being able to like have these concrete people that you can look at and go, no, I know that they find value in me.
They actually value me, yeah.
Yeah, like these people see me as a valuable human being that helps you just not feel worthless.
Exactly. And it's like we've all had moments where we've been down on ourselves, and we've been like, you know, we feel worthless, we feel like we have nothing to contribute, and like we feel like there's no point sometimes. But then it's having the other three to go, you are enough. And that's kind of all we need, is to like it's that validation of one another, and it's that backing up of like, no matter who you are or who you decide that you are, these three people will be here to support you.
Yes. Yeah, no, exactly. Absolutely. So, yes.
I'm gonna start getting all teary now.
Oh no, let's not.
Then eject.
Someone get a mop bucket. Someone get a mop bucket, please. Anyway, good point to end on. So, yes, you can check out these three amazing people. All their links to their Twitch, YouTube, everything that they do, it will be in the description below. Most of them stream lots and lots and lots. Some of us are crazy and stream
except
nearly
for me.
every...
Some of us have jobs.
Not so much
oof. My heart. And yeah, so make sure you check out those guys. They are awesome. And yeah, so this moving forward, this will be a monthly podcast with rotating guests. And it will be available on YouTube as well as podcast platforms if you want to just listen to the podcasts. And yeah, it's a good thing that I wanted to bring back, because I enjoy these things as well as playing video games. I think it's a great way to get to know other people. I mean, this group, it's like, you know, you know us.
We've been around since the dawn of time, so.
So, you know, but it's something that I want to do and have, you know, just random banter and random conversations, and just whether it's funny or, you know, touching or just, you know, emotional. I don't care, as long as it's something that people enjoy. So if you want to give me some feedback, comments, etc., please do, because, you know, I want to shape this in a way that's an entertaining thing, but also maybe take something away from as well, which is kind of, you know, the point. So yeah, but for now, thank you all three of you for being here.
Thank you for having us.
I'm looking forward to the next time Kaylee's on here and I get to see what Connor I'm getting.
Yes,
I didn't say it would always be Connor.
Oh, good lord. And yeah, thanks for watching, and we will see you in the next podcast in May. All right, have a wonderful month, and yeah, bye guys.
Bye.
Bye.
I really want Connor. I was gonna say I want Connor to start waving and then just freak out. You hungry, Philo? You ready for dinner? Yeah, you ready for dinner? Hang on, let's grab your dinner. Ready? Here you go. Here's your dinner. There we go. Now that Philo's been fed, let's have a bit of a chat. So thank you for watching the video first and foremost. I greatly appreciate it. You can check out my YouTube, Twitch, and social media links in the description below. Or if you want to keep up to date with when videos are going live, you can subscribe to the channel. It costs nothing. On top of all that, I want to talk about Patreon briefly. So with my Patreon, you can pledge for as little as €1 a month and get early access to my YouTube videos and other awesome perks the further up the tiers you go. It's up to you. I would greatly appreciate it, but any support is always appreciated. But until the next video, I'll see you then. Bye!